Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. My name is Plami, and in this episode of Plami's Thoughts Zone, I'm gonna be sharing my thoughts on a movie that I watched recently called A Sound of Thunder. For those of you who don't know, which is probably most people watching this video, this movie is a science fiction movie from the early 2000s that is about time travel, so to speak. It's a movie that I remember watching when I was very young, and this is actually the first time I've watched this movie since then. I'm pretty sure at the very least, because I remember as a kid rewatching it a couple of times maybe, because it did leave a lot of pretty big impact on me, and it's one of the first movies that I really liked, and that started my interest in time travel fiction in general. But yeah, now was the first time that I watched this movie as an adult and as a more aware person, like somebody who can actually comprehend a lot of the stuff that you wouldn't usually notice in movies. And it was a pretty interesting experience, but I was honestly kind of disappointed with this movie. Not that it was ultimately bad or anything, I still think it's at the very least okay, but there's a lot more problems with this movie than I thought before I got into it. But yeah, where do we start? I guess first let's start with my explanation for this movie and what it is, for those of you who don't know. But yeah, basically it's a movie about time travel. In this movie, there is a company that offers basically kind of like a safari into the past, where a group of scientists take a bunch of rich people who are willing to pay for this kind of stuff, 65 million years into the past, to kill a Tyrannosaurus, I think it was. And this movie basically deals with the consequences of changing time, which is why I really think it's really interesting. The way it does it is very interesting, but it definitely could have been done better, but I'm gonna get into it in a little bit. So, the way they go about killing a creature in the past, which in normal circumstances would cause the present to change, because who knows, maybe that dinosaur ate some kind of a would have caused a certain type of animal to go to near extinction level and cause it to evolve into an animal that is better adapted to evade this kind of dinosaurs and being able to survive, and that animal through evolution maybe ends up becoming us humans. So the way how they go around those kind of stuff, like the consequences of time travel, is by going after this dinosaur that was going to die in that exact moment anyway, because it was going to fall in a tar pit or something like that, and it was going to die because of a volcano eruption. And when they shoot the dinosaur, they go back, they celebrate and all that stuff. But that's not really important. The important part is that later down the line in the movie, they screw up. It was an accident, the reason why they screwed up, but they screwed up so their guns weren't working when they were supposed to kill the dinosaur, so they have to kind of make up a plan in the moment, and they end up changing the past because one of the rich people who was paying to do this kind of thing ended up stepping on a butterfly. This is where the popular idea of stepping on a butterfly and changing the future comes from. It's kind of weird for me to go back and find out exactly where this came from, because I already knew, but like it's kind of funny how this failure of a movie, because it was a box office bomb, it failed miserably on the box office, how this kind of a movie with this such a little detail ended up going into pop culture as a whole, because this movie actually gets referenced in one episode of Doctor Who, which is another show that I really like, if you haven't found out because of my YouTube channel already. But to be fair, I haven't done a Doctor Who video in a long time, I will do so in the future. I do plan on reviewing the whole show, including the bad seasons that we have right now, but that's gonna be far in the future for now. Um, so yeah, they one of the rich guys end up stepping on a butterfly and changing the past, so everything up to the present point in time ends up being changed. And here comes the most interesting part of the movie, the way how they tackle changes in the timeline. You would think that when you change time, it would be an instant change, like the second that you change the past, the present doesn't exist. But I really like how this movie does it with waves. It's like if you throw a rock into a body of water, it's not gonna instantly go away. It's just gonna have a bunch of waves that go up and down, and change stuff, change the level of the water, for example. And that's kind of how they treat time travel in this one. There are a bunch of waves that change different kinds of reality, essentially. They might cause some trees that never existed in certain locations to exist, some animals which never existed to exist. And supposedly or theoretically, according to this, the last wave is the wave that is going to change humans. The thing that confuses me a little bit though is because of the way they phrase it in the movie, where they say that the species that evolved last is gonna get changed last, because that doesn't make any sense. Because and they say that is basically humans, which is why humans would be changed last, but that doesn't make any sense because every single living creature is evolving. So there's no the most recent evolution. Like there's no the most recent evolved creature. There's no such thing. Everybody's evolving right now. But I'm pretty sure that they meant that the most complex species and complex changes are the ones that's going to be affected the last. At least that's how I choose to believe it is, because it makes a little bit more sense. So yeah, those waves start coming in and changing a lot of stuff a little by little. I do like the effects of the waves and how it changes stuff and it destroys everything. That's a really cool thing that they do in the movie to show. That's why I think the waves are one of the most interesting thing of this movie. And in one of the waves, a bunch of animals that were supposed to never exist actually started showing up, and I actually really like the idea of the animal that evolves due to those waves, because even though I still don't understand how they combine a freaking mammal, some kind of a monkey, and a lizard, how logically in evolution would that happen? That kind of doesn't make sense to me when you think about it. But it's a really cool idea for an evolution of an animal, and it looks cool, and it's a very threatening animal, so it gets an A from me in that regard. The other monster that they have, which is like some kind of giant flying bats or whatever, they're not nearly as interesting, so I don't really have much to say about them. That they're there, kind of, a little bit. And at the end of the movie, they find a way how to fix the timeline, and I might get into it a little bit more later, but right now I'm trying to recap the plot a little bit before we get into my thoughts on the movie structure and all those stuff, and like the acting and everything. So they find a way to solve the time travel problem and the fact that everything's changing by sending the main scientist back to the past, and him warning the other people that they shouldn't change the past, like to prevent the person from stepping on the butterfly. And everything is saved. And in the last shot before they send the scientist back to the past, we see the last wave and what it turns humans into. And I just love that creature. I'm gonna put a picture of it on the screen. It's just so innocent. I wished that kind of stuff were some more expanded upon. It's such a cool idea. we should have seen the consequence. Like something like this deserves another take of it. It needs a reboot. It's such a cool idea. I love it. Um, but I guess this is where my biggest problem with this movie comes in, which is the pacing of the movie, or at least what I think could be considered the pacing of the movie, because obviously we get like about 10 to 20 minutes of the movie with introduction of the characters, how the world works, how they travel back in time, and explaining all that stuff to us to get us into a normal day doing this, you know? And that's fine and dandy, but the second that they change the past, I feel like by the time we see the consequences of the first wave and the consequences of them changing the past, it's like already halfway through the movie. And then on top of that, I feel like the story kind of goes surprisingly small scale all of a sudden, because like it's all about these changes to the world and everything, and they literally just focus on going from a location to a location to a location to a location. I don't know, I guess I remember that happening when I was a kid, but right now it's just weird because at first you have all the big time travel stuff and the dinosaur and the big company, and the second shit goes down, it's all about surviving these prehistorical creatures, which on its own, in a separate movie that is all about that, I feel like it would be really good because those parts of the movie are not necessarily bad, but they really clash with the first half of the movie, like the first minutes before we start to see the waves coming little by little. And it's like, because the second we start to see shit go down, the second they have to go, and the problem is, it's just this specific part is weirdly paced. It's all about them traveling from this location to this location, and then you have all these characters just sacrificing themselves and dying for nothing, or just being killed for no fucking reason other than just having another character die. It just kind of annoyed me and poisoned my enjoyment for this movie, because the beginning I liked, but the second we started to go into these generic survival stuff and fighting these animals and everything, I don't know, it just wasn't, it was weirdly small scale for a big scale of an idea. I don't know, like I don't know what else they could have done, but what they did definitely didn't fit with the scope of such an idea of like waves changing the world and changing how everything has evolved and stuff. It was way too small scale, you know. I guess we also should talk a little bit about the CGI. I actually think the CGI in this movie is okay, or to actually being pretty decent. It doesn't really look anything like it's real or like if it's actually there, but it is convincing enough for me. And coming from like the early 2000s, it's honestly solid. It's solid CGI. It's, for the time, I think it was solid CGI. I don't know if I would say it's like Lord of the Rings level CGI, but it's definitely better than something like The Mummy, you know? Although there were a couple of moments, especially when they were escaping the giant bat creatures with a car, where it really looked like a video game. Like, it literally feels like a video game, and it looks like a modern video game, not like a video game from the early 2000s, but like a modern video game. If you told me that that was some kind of modded version of like something like Cyberpunk or some other car-based video game, I would have believed you, because it genuinely looked like that. So for me, as long as the CGI doesn't look like shit, as long as it looks pretty, uh, and solid, I'm fine with it. Like for the most part, I don't really care about CGI too much unless you could have done it with practical effects, or if it's just, as long as at the very least it looks like a game, I'm okay with it. But not something like the CGI in Black Panther, which was just terrible, just terrible. But yeah, in terms of the acting for this movie, again, I don't know if there was anything particularly bad, uh, but there wasn't anything particularly good about it either. But the weird thing is that all of these actors in this movie, I swear I've seen them in other movies. Their faces are so freaking familiar, especially the brunette chick, or at least I think she either had brown or black hair, I don't know, but she especially looks so familiar to me. And I've looked through her IMDb page and her Wikipedia page, and I can't find in which other movie I've seen her, because I definitely have. The blonde lady, which is like the main female character, I think you could say, also seems familiar, but I think I kind of know where I've seen her. I think I've seen her in some other like horror movie or something. But the point is, all these actors in this movie are so familiar to me, but I can't really put all of them from put exactly where I know all the actors from. They just seem super familiar. The one actor that I know where I know from is one of the rich guys, or actually is the rich guy who causes the whole mess. And I know him from one episode of Doctor Who in which he plays Henry Van Staden. I think it's series 1, episode 6, Dalek. And I like him actually in that episode, but he was an even bigger asshole in this movie, and he caused everything. But yeah, overall, if you are a sci-fi fan and if you like time travel, I think this is going to be a overall decent time killer. Because it's not a good movie. I wouldn't call it a good movie. The pacing is just really bad, and as I said, it's just the sudden shift from like very big scope of a story to very small scale, just going from point A to point B. It's just way too jarring of a change. If it was going for one of those things and just doing it, I would have been definitely more into it. And it's not like I hate the small scale stuff. It does feel reminiscent of like Cloverfield, so I like it because I like Cloverfield. But it's just such a jarring change from the big scale stuff of before that, you know? It's just a way too weird of a tonal change. So yeah, if you're into these kind of movies, I think it's gonna be a solid time killer if you don't mind wasting a little bit of your time and seeing kind of an interesting idea being done, not particularly well, but not particularly bad. I think it's worth a watch, but it's not a movie that I would like sit with somebody who I love and like with a significant other and enjoy it. It's not that kind of movie. It's a bad movie overall, but I think it's still worth a watch. So in terms of the ratings, I think I'm gonna give this movie a 6.7 out of 10. And in certain way, it might still be a little bit too high for what it actually is, but for me it was still really enjoyable overall, and I like the idea a lot. So I don't feel like I wasted my time, or I'm not too bothered by the fact that it wasn't like a perfect movie, because I don't really care too much about a movie being perfect as long as I found at least some enjoyment into it. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe. Also, check out the description to my Twitter if you want to follow me there, and to my Wattpad where I post my stories, because in addition to doing all these videos on my channel, I'm also a writer. And if you don't enjoy my stories, or you simply enjoy my videos, you can head over to Patreon where you can pledge support and help keep the channel going, help support me so I can keep writing the stories you enjoy. But if you don't want to do it, that's completely fine. You can still help me out in other ways, like liking this video, subscribing, and especially sharing this video with somebody who you think might enjoy it. And I think it's pretty much it for this video, so hopefully I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!